This video contains stunts performed by professionals in a controlled environment. Please don't try and reenact this skullduggery.
The 2022 Yamaha's MT-10 gets even more mid-range, more peak power, an extensive electronic suite, and some subtle but effective chassis tweaks. For the full tech lowdown, check out the walk-around video on our second channel, Bike Sausage.
This is nice. Oh, a tour of the hotel garden to start off. So far, so good. Cheers, Nige. Woo! The thought of Valencia in March sounded pretty dreamy. Then we got here. It's pissing down. Pissing down. What is the point in all these traffic lights? Seriously. Oh my god. Hey! Oh, trig. Fuck me. You just went full gas over a metal drain. Oh god, that had collarbones all over it. The thing I love about the MT-10 is that it's never been about peak horsepower. It's never been about willy waving stats. It's just about that torque, just about shits and giggles. And you know, in today's world of willy waving horsepower and stats, it makes a nice change. And it's never pretended to be the super naked that I guess a lot of people think, oh, you know, just shove an R1 engine in the MT-10 and it will be a super naked. Well, it probably would be, but it would take the fun out of it, that's for sure. And I was surprised in the presentation last night. I was going through Boothie's, did a bit of homework, went through Boothie's website piece on when they first announced this bike, and I was surprised. There's loads more changes than I thought there would be, or there was. So it's going to be a good day, that's for sure. But the other thing I loved about MT-10s is the kind of light engine feel. They've always had this deliciously light throttle and engine internals, like there's nothing inside. And for 2022, they've kind of got rid of it. I was surprised. And the engine's definitely heavier. There's a sort of slightly clumsier feel to it. The same way that I like the R1 and that crank, that sort of light feeling. I jumped on Ben Spee's superbike in 2009 when he won the championship, and it was like they put a tractor crank in it. It felt horrible. It felt totally different to the road bike. That was back when you could do stuff like that to superbikes. And this MT-10, the update for 22, is nothing like Ben's Pie's crank. It's nothing as nasty as that, but there's a really big jump. There's more meat to it. And I guess, I don't know whether that's something to do with the fact that there's now no physical connection from the throttle to the throttle bodies, the twist tube to the throttle bodies. It's gone full ride-by-wire, so I don't know whether that's the case or there's another reason behind it. I don't know why. I personally loved the old engine, and we got more power, but we'll get to the sort of technical details later on. Let's just enjoy the ride for the moment. It is a little bit heavier. It's 2 kilos heavier. That's to do with you know, the necessary workings. Most of the work for 22 is engine, and yeah boy, most of the work, as I said, is done on the engine for 22. Obviously aesthetics as well. The chassis is not so much, but they weren't mentioned in the original press release, and then last night they kind of dusted over it. But there's quite a significant change to suspension. There's the shock spring is 3mm longer, which gives it a more nosier feel, more nosier stance. So it's not a night and day change, but it definitely feels like, you know, just a bit more confidence inspiring. And after chatting to a couple of MT-10 owners, I say a couple, chatting to the internet and our followers about the MT-10, the previous bikes, one of the biggest complaints was fuel economy, and Yamaha also picked up on this. So they've they have improved fuel economy. I think it's like, I don't know the exact numbers, but they say it's improved by quite a bit. Time will tell, you know. There's all very well manufacturer claiming this and that, but until you're twisting the noise tube out in your own ride, then we'll never know. But usually when Yamaha say they've done something, it usually means they've done it. And the other issue is the brakes, and they have improved the setup, different calipers. Again, time will tell. Just on the few roundabouts we've ridden so far, I don't know, there's still that kind of wooden feeling when you're braking hard, and I don't know, there's this inherent Yamaha issue. I don't understand it. How every other manufacturer can produce bikes, sorry, most other manufacturers can produce bikes that feel good and give you confidence, whereas there's, yeah, I don't know. We'll get to the mountains and really open her up and make a proper decision then. Informed decisions are the best. It's still a little bit snatchy on and off the throttle, particularly when you close the throttle, which is bizarre. We've also lengthened the gearing. It's only by 1 tooth. They've gone down to a 42 rather than up to a 44 tooth sprocket. The idiots. And you can, you know, pulling around, you can definitely feel the clutch working a bit harder, and they've done that apparently because it smoothens out the engine delivery. And yeah, who am I to argue that? It's nowhere near as long as the R1, nowhere near as horrible through town as the R1, but it's still a length, still an extra length, Nige. I really want to change the lift. I want to take the lift function off. And this is another good thing. I love this about the new bike, is that you can change the traction control, the slide control. Obviously it's got the electronic suite essentially from the MT-10 SP, so we've now got 6-axis IMU and all the electronic goodies to go with it, so slide control, TC, lift, etc. Now I've cunningly placed a sticker over the speedo, and now I can't see the lift kind of toggle mode thing, so yeah, I can't turn it off. And for obvious reasons, you don't want lift function on this bike, officer. Oh, shall I let him? I'll stop him. Yeah. Cheers, Nige. Cheers, baby. Sketchy shit conditions. I mean, we've got S22s on, so it's not too bad, but it's just a little bit sketchy. I'd like some dry weather, please. Thank you. This MT-10 is not pretending to be a track focused monster. It's all about fun, opening the throttle and putting a smile on your face. Bloody hell, what are you hanging about? I know we're not really hunting on, but as I am on and off the throttle and braking quite hard, the suspension feels a bit more executive. It's not just Tesco's own, Tesco value stuff. It's definitely been a bit of an upgrade. But going back to this fuel economy thing, I do hope Yamaha don't make too much of a fuss of this. I understand dealing with the issue, improving the fuel economy for this bike, don't get me wrong, I understand that, but you know, that was one of the big things in the presentation, was how they've kind of addressed that situation. And I don't want, you know, not just Yamaha, other manufacturers to get too worried about, you know, appeasing people who worry about fuel economy on a fucking super naked. Let's not get started off on that one. The point is, I hope they don't sanitize it, and other manufacturers don't sanitize bikes because people want a more frugal bloody bikes. Fuck off. I mean, I love those wheels. I think they are proper dapper. A lot of people moaning that they take too much effort to clean. Oh look, there's some other guys on 2022 MT-10s. What are the chances? Well, during the coffee stop I disabled the lift function for testing purposes. So oh my god, how to change a bike by the press of a button. And as if there wasn't enough mid-range for you to enjoy the MT-10, the Focus for 22 was more mid-range. And of course there is more peak power. I think it's about 6-7 horsepower at the top, but the focus was on the mid. Right, you know, chassis, this is the thing, the chassis is the standout thing so far for me. Of course you've got all these lovely electronics and lots of talk about the engine, but I think the chassis it's way more fluid, and like I said, the suspension is a big step up without making, you know, too much of a shout about it. it just floats. Oh god, it's just ridiculous. Cheers, Nige. Cheers. Oh, as the crossplane crank sound resonates around the mountains near Valencia. Might as well talk about the artificial insemination and the artificial sound that Yamaha has been talking about, and you know, kind of playing with the airbox noise, because you know, Euro 5 and future issues with sound and noise, engine noise, exhaust noise, they want you to hear the bike and enjoy the bike, so they've done it via airbox and playing with the airbox and kind of beefing up the airbox sound. And yeah, it's definitely noticeable. Oh, particularly there, that mid-range, you get a lovely purr. I mean, it's always been good anyway, but you can really taste the difference. You can really Sainsbury's it. Ooh. I don't know, is there a better sound? I know the V4 sounds good, the Aprilia sounds good, but there's something about this. I'm not sure it will pick up on camera as well as obviously it never does, but I'm not sure if you can hear the difference. I don't know if that guy was giving me the wanker sign or giving me the thumbs up. I couldn't really tell. Oh, these tarmac snakes are not very nice in the corners. I've got to say though, mechanical grip and the grip from the S22s on shit greasy roads like this, it's very confidence inspiring. And that's something that the old bike lacked, I think. Not that it was bereft of mechanical grip, but just the sort of extra finesse it's got definitely helps in conditions like these. I think also shifting the weight a little bit towards the front definitely helps with confidence in all conditions for riding, in all environments. And this bike should be celebrated all over the world, but particularly in the UK. Found out yesterday the UK is the leading market in Europe. They sold the most MT-10s in the UK out of all of Europe, which is, I mean, I'm not surprised. You know, this is a perfect bike for UK roads, and it's, you know, it's not by a massive amount, but the fact is, little old Ireland in the middle of the sea, the UK is the leading market, and it's good to know. It's good to know that some of you guys, I mean, look, the feedback we've had from, you know, when I've been putting stuff on social media, just the response has been amazing, and there's a lot of love for this bike, and you can see why. And Yamaha are hardly going to fuck it, you know. I know a lot of you owners, MT-10 owners, have been saying, well, you know, it's going to have to be a big change and massively improved to sway me to, you know, to chop it in and get the new one. And I understand that. You know, we've only been on the bike for an hour and a half, or 2 hours. This engine is so addictive. It's an assault on the senses in every aspect. You know, the noise, the intangibles, kind of what it does to your body and your balls and your gooch. Oh god, what a bike. You know, the harder you ride it, the more noticeable the mid-range becomes. It's definitely harder hitting. The engine parameters available are just stunning, and of course that's down to the cross-plane trickonology, but you know, you can just keep it in the same gear, drop it as low as you want, and you don't get that V-twin rattle or chain clunk. And of course the power, you know, it's not superbike power at the top, and like I said before, it's never going to be. That's not the idea behind this, but it still delivers all the way to the red line, but just because of the noise, you know. Don't get me wrong, it's not, the power doesn't die off so much that it's pointless keeping it there, but it's just backed up by the noise, backed up by the soundtrack. And what's the soundtrack? Oh yeah, those brakes definitely aren't as good as they should be, sorry, but they definitely need a little bit more spice. Oh man, obviously the harder you ride it, the more noticeable the mid-range comes, but the harder you ride it, the more noticeable the sound from that airbox is. Oh, you know, I don't care what you say, I think this is, in terms of chassis, you know, this is all you need for the road. Unless your name is Hickman or Dean Harrison, then this really is plenty for the road. But in terms of agility and, you know, ability on the side of the tyre, and what this thing can get away with, you know, its bump management is good. Yes, it's derived from an R1, and you can tell that, but it's still supple enough and agile enough to do all the everyday stuff. Bit of clutch slip knowledge. You notice I'm using the clutch as well, just on certain sketchy bits of the road. Sketchy bits of the road. The blipper isn't, I don't know, just when it's a bit wet and it catches the wrong time, it can, the rear can throw a little bit of a wobbler. It's nothing bad, but I'm just preempting. We're going back to those kind of elite super nakeds, the Super Duke and the Tuono. I think particularly the Tuono, they can get too serious. They've been designed for road and track performance, and look, of course these MT-10s have been tested on the track, but that's not the priority. The priority, as I said, is putting a smile on your face when you do that, when you open the throttle. But I think those, like I said, those super naked can get a little bit serious for their own liking. There's too much focus on track and lap times and chasing temps. And there's a lot to be said for just concentrating on the feel and the attitude of a bike.
We don't normally mention aftermarket goodies, but given the amount of pre-ride questions we received about MT-10 upgrades, I thought it was best to acknowledge Yamaha's offerings. The weekend pack costs £662 and highlights include touring screen, comfort seat, 24-litre body bag and a USB socket. The sport pack will cost you £1,500, just over, and includes an Akrapovic exhaust, GB racing covers and lever guards with neat integrated indicators.
Been messing around with modes on the way, and definitely Power Mode 2 is the best. Power Mode 1 is like, it's full Tonto mode. It is ridiculous. It's good fun in certain environments, but generally speaking 2 is kind of the happy medium. Full power, but just not that initial jerkiness and hospital ready. Navajas mine. Where did you go for lunch? Went to Navajas. There's not many bikes. In fact, I can't think of another bike that just has this amount of wheelie on tap. It's like a gauge, a barometer of wheelie. You just like, you open the throttle and, oh, sorry officer, sorry. It's bloody good and a bit dangerous as well, if you know what I mean. Oh, we've got 2/3 of a tank left. I'm still fueling up. I think they must be worried about fuel consumption still. I think the total route today, including photo stops, is about 250 k's. So probably wouldn't do a tank on it, no. Oh, come to Papa! That's tight. Long John! Long John! You know, yes, the engine and the noise, and you know, this bike is all about the motor. I mean, regardless of the model year and what version we're talking, the engine is the beating heart. I mean, it's impossible not to look past that. Obviously, the mid-range plays a big part of it. The extra mid-range and the, you know, a bit more power, and those are the headline numbers. Those are the kind of figures that people want to know about and talk about. But it's just how fluid this chassis is. It really is an improvement. I love looking at your arse for the last bit. Yeah.
Was it looking sexy?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I got a semi. I got a bit mild Casey.
As the roads dried and the pace got more enthusiastic, the MT-10, as expected, didn't disappoint. That said, despite the chassis' extra fluidity, the front end isn't as racy or as precise as its super naked peers, and there isn't the confidence to load the front off the throttle. It's more of a kind of point and squirt job rather than railing corner speed, although I did soften off the damping slightly and the feel was noticeably improved. Likewise, the shock got a bit bouncy when ridden hard, but we're talking about a bike that's £3,000 cheaper than its racier rivals and £6,000 cheaper than the Street Fighter V4. In terms of smiles per mile, only the KTM provides similar thrills.
Well, the sun is well and truly come out now. We spent the last kind of hour getting some pictures and videos, and the weather is playing ball finally. We've got some dry roads finally. Whoa! Oh wow, what a bike, what a bike. Like I said previously, I honestly can't see what else you want, what extra you want from a road bike. You know, at £13,300 it's creeping towards that upper tier of hyper nakeds. Oh, and the brakes, yeah, the brakes definitely aren't 13,300 quid worth. I just want a little bit more bite and more feeling as we stroll back to the hotel through the shit and misery of Valencia traffic. A quick summary. I mean, I think you can tell I'm impressed. When I'm giggling hysterically and uncontrollably, then you know the bike's good. The whole bike is a little bit better in every department except the brakes. So the whole bike has got better in nearly pretty much every way, and when the brakes aren't really that much better, then that's the one that stands out. That's the bit that stands out. Oh, Valencia, the town with no roundabout etiquette. Come on, you get a bus through there, mate. This is utter carnage. Oh, classic. Thank you. Right, so we're going to head back to the hotel now, and I'm going to answer some of your questions. It's Fagan's Jack and Ori time. Nice riding with you, man.
Yes, you guys brought a lot of honor to the British nation today. Very good ride.
The day started a bit shit. It was raining, it was wet, it was damp. It gradually got better and better, and the crescendo was outstanding. We had dry roads and we could really test this puppy to the limit. Now, my takeaways from this, and there are a lot of takeaways from this, I think
there's lots of focus on the numbers and the extra horsepower, but really for me, the standout feature is the slight tweaks to the suspension and just how much better the chassis is in general. It's not night and day, but it's just a little bit more fluid, and that makes the whole bike much nicer to ride. Lots of questions, which we'll get to in a second, about where this sits in the super naked category. And like I said, you've got the Tuono, you've got the Street Fighter V4, and you've got the Super Duke at the top end. And just below, this kind of really is in a class of its own, because you've got bikes like the Speed Triple and, I mean, the Z1000 you could put in that tier. But this bike isn't trying to be serious. This is a fun bike. This is designed to give you thrills and to tickle your bollocks when you open the throttle. That's it, plain and simple. And Yamaha have admitted that. You know, they're not chasing big numbers. Also, while we're talking about little things, I love the fact that now the wheels have 90-degree valves. Just little things like that make the job of ownership and everyday chores so much easier. Actually, while we're on the wheels, I ran an Instagram poll and said, do you like the wheels? Because they are a bit Marmite. I mean, I love them. I love the kind of the logo, the red logo on them as well. Really nice touch. I ran a poll and 61% of you said you'd like them, and I was surprised. I thought it would be like a more towards not liking them, but anyway, thank you for agreeing with me. So we'll get to some questions. Justin Day on Facebook says, why haven't they chased the big numbers power-wise? Well, I think I've kind of answered that already, but the point is, it's never been about big numbers. It's never been about big horsepower figures, and for this exact reason. When you open a throttle and when you riding every day between kind of 4,000, 8,000, that is where the power should be, and Yamaha agree with that. So the hard-hitting sort of mid-range, that's it. They want the thrills and the focus of the engine in that, and that's I think that's answered that one. John Lefevre on Facebook, probably pronounced that wrong. John Lefevre. He says, how much does it weigh in kilograms? Is it agile? Again, I touched on this earlier, I think, but it is 212 kilograms wet, 192 dry, so it is 2 kilos heavier than before. You don't notice it at all. It's 2 kilos. I don't care who you are, what you are, you'll never notice it. And all that is to do with additional catalyzers in the exhaust, you know, making the bike quieter. And the addition of the electronics, obviously now we have the 6-axis IMU and other things like that. So, I mean, does it make a difference? There's no way anyone can recognise that. Is it agile? Yes, it is. It's not, like I said, it's not as serious as the Hyper Naked. So it does feel slightly more agile when, you know, when the bike's upright and you can change direction, and it's not been designed to kind of feel brilliant on the side of the tyre. Although it does, it's not been designed to spend all its life on the side of a tyre and or on track. So it has its plus points. It's definitely more agile, I think, than a lot of its rivals. Richard Grills on Facebook, great name, Dick Grills. Hi, I'm Dick Grills. Dickie Grills says, will you notice the extra horses? Yes, without doubt. At the top end, not so much. I think you can get wrapped up in the exhaust note and the sound and the soundtrack, but the big noticeable difference for me is the mid-range and just how much harder hitting it is. It is, I mean, I don't think you want any more power. I've probably been saying that for, well, since the MT-10 came out, how you want more power, but it works, definitely. And he also says, how refined is the shifting arrangement? Again, that's one thing along with the brakes. The downshifting is probably the only minor point as well. Sometimes when you downshift, the rear wheel, and this is in shit conditions by the way, when it's wet, sometimes it can get a little bit unsteady, and some riders might find that a little bit off-putting. Got a flap in my face. He says, my quick shifter on the previous generation is quite clunky. It's more refined, but it's not 100% there yet. Stephen Matthews says, what's this new fashion for massive brows? Stephen, I don't know, mate. I don't understand it. I cannot. Anyway, let's not get into that. I might say something I regret. Leon Cutt says, is the exhaust system the same as the previous gen? As in, do they still use the same mounting points, etc.? Yes, they do. Simon Gunson says, will there be an SP? Yes, Simon, there will be. It has been announced. Unfortunately, it's not ready. We're supposed to be running it today on this trip, but it's not ready. So we'll have to have another test on that soon.
Owen Lane asks, is it as good as an S1000R? I mean, for me personally, I prefer the MT-10. The S1000R, the new one, is much better. It's more of a super naked, but it's just it just lacks something. It lacks some excitement, and this certainly doesn't. So it's the MT-10 for me. Matt Townsley asks, is Hawaiian Brian racing the TT this year? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Jimmy Greville asks, will it do 300 miles to a tank? No, Jimmy, it will not do 300 miles to a tank. Again, we were kind of scuppered really with the test because we got told to fuel the bikes up halfway through the route because they might not make the whole trip by the time we've done all the photo stops and gone up and down and burnouts and wheelies and whatever else. Then they were worried that we might not make it back. The route was probably 150 miles today. So it's improved. And I can't give an exact figure, but it has improved. So I think you'll be pleased. I think a lot of owners will be pleased about that. And there are lots of questions about, is it worth upgrading to the new bike from an older model? And put simply, as good as this bike is and as much fun as I've had today, it's not the kind of big jump that would warrant upgrading to this new bike. And especially for the bike, it's £13,300, so it's a lot of money. You know, when you can pick up a second-hand bike, or you've still got your pre-owned 2016 model, for instance. As I said, the bike has improved in almost every area, so you could argue that yes, it is worth it. But for me, I mean, you could put an exhaust, or you could spend a few quid on your older bike and still get the mid-range boost that this bike's got. But like I said, it's not. I wasn't expecting a massive jump. I wasn't expecting some massive revolution. It's always going to be a light dusting and refinement, and this is exactly what this bike is. Anyway, I'm gonna get changed, have a beer, and cry about the fact that I'm not riding this bike because I've had an absolute banger of a day. Thanks for watching.